Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I wanted to talk to y'all today about something a little bit heavy. So I just want to say before we get started that I'm giving you a trigger warning. If you are triggered by conversations about sexual assault, you probably want to go ahead and click off now because this is what this is going to be. I wanted to talk to y'all about the time that I woke up in the middle of the night and found my uncle's friend having sex with me in my sleep. So I was 40, I was in my 40s, and my uncle's friend had been staying with me for a little while because he had recently split up with his baby mama and tried to move off to Oklahoma, and it didn't work out, and he was back in town to visit his kids, and he needed a place to stay before he went back to Oklahoma. He came to visit my uncle, and he stopped in at my house, and he ended up staying there for longer than expected. I didn't want him to stay there, honestly. The man creeped me out, even like as far back as the first time I met him, but I'm a good person, and he was pretty charming. My family trusted him, I guess. He'd been friends with my uncle for a pretty long time. So I let him stay there. Where I was living is very close to my family. We're all like right in there together. So there'll be like a property here, a property here, a property here, a property. It's all my family. So I felt a little bit safer having him stay with me, and he acted like my uncle wanted him to stay there. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyways, he was staying there with me for a little while. And on the night that this happened, I was ready for bed. This is what I remember. I was sitting on my bed with a bowl of macaroni and cheese. And I remember trying to eat the macaroni and cheese and falling asleep a few times. And that's the last thing I remember, was falling asleep into my macaroni and cheese. And the next thing that I remember is waking up, and I'm laying down, and this man is having sex with me. And I couldn't talk. I couldn't even really move, which I think is really scary. And I couldn't get myself to wake up, but I knew it was happening. And it was only for a split second that I was even conscious. And remember, knowing that, oh my God, this person is having sex with me, and I can't stop him, and he's not supposed to be having sex with me while I'm asleep. And so I fell back asleep. I wasn't able to move or come to or anything like that, but I did wake up the next morning to go to work. I worked for my grandma at the time, and for a minute when I woke up, I didn't remember. Well, just for like a split second. Um, but as I woke up and I started to come to wake up, I felt pretty normal, I think. But I remembered what happened. It was kind of like one of those things where you wake up in the morning and you think it's going to be a regular day, and then the worst thing ever happens. Um, I realized that I had been raped. And I knew what had happened, that I had been raped. And so I got dressed and I headed over to my grandma's. In my mind, I was going to go to my grandma's house. I was going to tell her what happened. We were going to call the police. The police were going to come out and they were going to arrest him because he raped me. But that's not really what happened. What happened was I walked in the house and I told my grandma, "Oh my God, we have to call the police right now. Call the police. That MFer is going to jail." She's like, "What happened? What happened?" And I told her, Dan raped me last night in my sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night and he was having sex with me. And her reaction, which I expected it to be, "Oh, hell no. Get on the phone to the police." And I expected her to be as upset as I was. Her to be upset, her to be mad, her to want to report it or something. But my grandma Her exact words were, "Well, I don't know what you think the police are going to do about it. You're the one that let him stay there." That's what she said. And in the moment that she said that, my heart just dropped. And I don't really know what I was thinking in my head. I don't know what I thought. I think my heart was just broken at that moment. I think. It really, I could feel it now. You know, not as strong as I felt it that day, but I feel it now. It's just a very disappointing feeling. It's a very let down feeling. It's a very, like alone, a very alone feeling. She was almost like mad at me, like just blaming me. I shouldn't have let him stay there. And I'm like, Grandma, but he had sex with me in my sleep. I was asleep. And so we didn't call the cops that day. It never got reported. I told my uncle what happened, and my uncle wasn't concerned. He just kind of like laughed it off, you know. And then I had it was just awful. It was awful. I had a conversation with him where I explained to him that, you know, what you did was wrong. It was not okay. And he said to me, "Well, you just look so pretty laying there." But at the time, I didn't have any sort of, it never even crossed my mind at the time that maybe my uncle knew about it, maybe my grandma knew about it, maybe everybody in my family knew about it, maybe other people knew about this. Like, I knew that they were all reacting weird, and they were all reacting in a way that they should not be reacting, but it never crossed my mind until later on, until recently, actually. It crossed my mind that they all knew about it, and it never crossed my mind that it was being recorded. But I believe that they knew about it, and I believe that it was being recorded. Because why else would they act 747, 748? Why else would they act so weird about it? Like it was no big deal. If this has happened to you, I want you to know that nobody has a right to have sex with you in your sleep. And I call it, he had sex with me in my sleep, but the truth of the matter is he sexually assaulted me. I was sexually assaulted. I was raped. I was 40 something years old and I was raped. I was a grown adult living in my own place. I gave him permission to stay there, and I was raped. I never gave him permission to have sex with me in my sleep. I never gave him permission to rape me. You can't give someone consent if you're sleeping. And it also struck me really odd at the time that I wasn't able to wake up. And I remember when I did wake up in the middle of, it might have not been the middle, I don't know, I was unconscious throughout the whole act, but when I woke up while he was having sex with me, I remember trying with all of my might to wake up fully. This man admitted that he did it. He admitted that he had sex with me while I was asleep. He said I just looked so pretty laying there. And so the conversation that I had with him, me and my big heart and my understanding and compassionate nature, I said, you know, maybe he doesn't understand that this is not okay. But it's not okay. But I told him it was not okay. And I explained to him why it was not okay. And I explained to him, you know, I didn't want him to do that again. And guess what? He did it again. He got to stay there. I let him stay there. This dude had already moved in at this point, but not like, hey, why don't you go ahead and move in with me? But he had just like got it into his head that he was going to stay here and he was going to take advantage of me as long as he could. He was going to ride out that free ride as long as he could. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he was staying with me and he continued to stay there after that happened because I was like, well, my grandma's not mad at me or at him. My uncle's not mad at him. Nobody's making a big deal about this. They didn't think that we needed. Oops. Wow. Weird, huh? Look, it says, oh, it says I'm strong. Thank you, God. But yeah. What was I saying? Oh, nobody else was. This is my family. They're supposed to be like, Amanda, like I'm supposed to be the one that's like, I don't know if we need to call the police or not, or I don't want to press charges, but my family was the one telling me that nothing had happened and it wasn't wrong, or that I had done something wrong. So anyways, he stayed staying there, and I had a conversation with him and I told him this was rape. I told him everything that I told y'all just now about like consent, and I don't want you to do this, and this is why it was wrong. And I rationalized it in my head. He didn't know any better, and he did it again. He did it again. And the second time he did it was the same thing. I woke up the next day, realized what had happened, that he had sex with me in my sleep again, and I got really angry. And I even had a conversation with him, a conversation that I recorded about how he raped me, he violated me, I didn't give him consent, it was wrong. I even remember specifically saying, rape is not always holding somebody down and they're fighting back and screaming. That's not what rape is always. Rape is also having sex with somebody while they're asleep and can't tell you that they want to have sex with you. Give consent. We had that conversation. I don't know if he recorded it a second time, but I feel like that first time he definitely recorded it. I don't have any proof of that. I don't have the proof, but the proof exists. Anyhow, and I moved out. Like I told you that he was so adamant that he was going to live there and take advantage of me as long as he could. Why would he do anything different? He had it made there. I was paying all the bills. I was, doing everything, feeding him, buying his drugs. And he was, able to finesse my family. Not that it probably took much. He had it made there. He might have even been paid to do all that. I don't know. Only God knows. God knows, and the people who were involved in all this mess. But yeah, I told my family knew. Anyhow, I'm just, in my mind, I'm trying to dissociate, I think. But I feel kind of like a little bit numb and a little bit like I want to stop this, but I'm going to keep going. So I moved out. I left my house and I went to stay with my grandma, and he stayed there for quite a bit longer after I left, but I was not going to go back there. And eventually, I think my uncle ended up taking him to the train station. He ended up going back to Oklahoma. But just the fact that my family owned the trailer. Actually, I own the trailer, but that's a whole long story. But just the fact that my family let him stay there after they knew that he raped me twice says a lot, don't you think? And my uncle still talks to him to this day. They're friends to this day. But my uncle ended up taking him to the train station and he left. But there was a whole bunch of, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill myself. I can't live without you. Text messages. I think I even changed my phone number before he left. He totally thought that I was going to come back there and we were going to play house. You know, I think I was under some kind of spell to even sit down in a room with him. But I always want to see the best in people. So, and I didn't have any self esteem, no self worth. Because the people that were supposed to love me and protect me were the people who told me, but you let him stay there with you. So, that's my story. That's one of my sexual assault survivor stories. It's just one of them. It's just one of them. But I want to encourage anybody that has been through a similar situation just to know that you didn't do anything wrong. It's not your fault. It's not your fault that your parents don't treat you the way that they should. It's not your fault that you got sexually assaulted. It's not your fault. None of it's your fault. You're not a bad person. You didn't ask for it. It's not okay. And I also want to encourage anybody who feels like maybe it's time for them to speak out against things that have happened to them. If you feel comfortable and you feel like you should, it's okay to speak. It's okay to say what they did. Because if they didn't want anybody to know, they shouldn't have done it. I heard somebody say that one time and I was like, yeah, I like that. You know. So that's what happened. My uncle pretty much let his friend rape me. And my grandma backed it up.